all those salad bars at the buffets and stuff, they're so successful because it plays into the psychology of having the independence to make your own choice and determine what goes in your plate. And we've talked about this in a previous episode, but that's essentially what our kids are fighting us for, to be able to make their own choice, to select what they eat. And by creating things family style, meaning just putting everything out there on the table for them to select and build their own, that feeds right into it. You guys, I'm so excited for today's episode because I actually have Paula here next to me recording this. We do not live in the same town. We live about 5.5 hours away from each other. And we're spending a couple of days together working on some very exciting projects. But today we're here to talk about the questions that parents often ask. Things like, why won't my kid eat anything green? Or really any color or vegetables. So Paula has worked really hard to gather all these questions, and she's gonna make sure that I stay on task. But this episode, it is brought to you by Happier Plates. Happier Plates is our digital program that helps parents transform mealtimes and establish healthy eating habits in their kids. Happier Plates is a step-by-step masterclass to empower parents to help their picky and selective eaters try new foods. I have more information for you in the show notes and right below this video if you're watching us on YouTube. So Paula, what are the things that people want to know?
Well, I think everybody wants a quick win, something we can try today. So what's one thing that we could try right away to get picky eaters to be more adventurous when it comes to color?
Okay, so the reason we're going to talk about color a little bit is because parents email us and say, my kid just refuses to eat green, or they only wanted to eat, white and yellow foods. This is actually really common. And we've talked about this previously on a previous episode. But I think the number one thing is to be creative when it comes with food. And I know that a lot of parents say, I'm just like, I can follow a recipe and I can cook, but I really can't come up with stuff off the cuff, right? So again, I think creativity it's not just about creating different recipes, but perhaps is getting your child involved in cooking with you. Or if your child just makes a mess, instead of cooking with you, quite simply have your child help you find different recipes. Right? So Pinterest is a very colorful place. It's something that kids really love to look at because it's like pictures of food, right? So you could sit down and browse through recipes that way. Obviously on this YouTube channel or on the MOMables YouTube channel, we have a ton of kid-friendly recipes. The entire channel is kid-friendly because I've always wanted to create something that my kids could watch. So sometimes my kids will say like, oh, I saw this video of yours. How come you never made that recipe? I was like, oh my gosh, I made it like a long time ago and it wasn't something that was successful, but now they watched it again and they're like, oh, maybe we could try that. What else do you see that people want me to tell them about this?
I think that the color green comes up again and again where people are like, maybe they'll eat white, red, yellow, anything but green. It's just a hard pass from the kids.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not just the color itself, it's the fact that most green foods have they're vegetables, right? So they have a texture that's really rough, that's coarse. We actually talked about this in depth in the texture episode, but green is just a very difficult color to mask also. So one of the things that parents often do is put smoothies, you put green like spinach or kale in smoothies. But of course, if you're gonna do that, make sure A, it's not a huge amount, and B, that you add colorful things like blueberries to mask that. We do have a blueberry muffin smoothie recipe on my site that is literally a spinach smoothie with blueberries, but it does taste like a muffin of sorts because, between the vanilla almond milk and if you do use protein powder in your family, I would suggest you use vanilla so it actually covers it. So really it's all about masking the color green with another food. Notice I did not say hiding green foods. I just said masking the color. So for example, pesto is a very nutritious food that is also green. And that's something that parents are like, oh my gosh, my kid loves the taste of Italian food. When they taste pesto, if it wasn't green, they would totally love it. So adding like marinara sauce to your pesto sauce to mask it and make it red, which is a very familiar color for kids and kid friendly because there's pizza, there's spaghetti, there's meatballs. Like a lot of the foods they like is red because it's tomato based. Right. So if we just mask the color with something else that also brings up a lot of nutrition, that's very kid friendly. Now, I do suggest doing these things very gradually. So, we talked about texture, but this color issue is about gradually changing the color of food. So at first, maybe in your, say you make a pasta with pesto sauce, maybe you're going to dump the entire marinara sauce, a jar. So it's really a tomato based, it's almost like pasta with tomato sauce. But gradually you're going to put less and less of it to where the color is changing, but they're really noticing you keep the same pasta constant so that the dish doesn't look any different. And then you just reduce the amount of red sauce that you add, right?
Yeah.
What else am I thinking about? Oh, so like, let's see. I mean, there's just so many things that you could add, like fruit a lot. Like I have one child who doesn't eat fruit, but will eat jelly, or I could make fruit puree or a smoothie or add fruit to yogurt. There's just a lot of different ways to change the color of something just by simply adding different foods.
So that kind of brings me to, how do you make the decision when you should continue offering the same thing like you've talked about previously, or when you should try to change things up?
Yeah, so one time is not enough to determine whether your kid likes a food or not. So, and I think that because we put so much effort into making food, we only try things very few times. It's also exhausting. Let's be honest about that. Well, if you have a really picky eater that gives you a run for your parenting money day in and day out at dinner time, it is just really tiring. And so you're just like, let me just pick the path of least resistance. Or I tried it twice in different ways and it just didn't work. I think that if you just change your mindset that it's not about the number of times, but it's just that you say to yourself, I'm going to make good, nutritious food for my family. And I'm going to make an effort to create a variety of recipes. Which is why meal planning is such a great idea, because it's an easy way to introduce 3 different recipes a week, and then the rest you can keep with your tried and true loved ones, right? So if you just plan 3 new things a week, then you're constantly introducing things without having to go, what do I do tonight for dinner, right? Like you take 10 minutes to plan, and then you execute the rest of the week. So I don't know that I would put a number to it. Like, I would just say that, broccoli didn't go over well in the chicken Alfredo with broccoli, but maybe it goes over really well in chopped really small with like marinara sauce. Or maybe it goes over well riced, kind of like when you make cauliflower rice, you can make broccoli rice because it's steam and it's softer and you could put cheese on it. Maybe it goes over well roasted. So like I just gave you 5 different ways, and that's 5 different weeks. So the thing is that you don't have to make broccoli every single day as a side in a different way. Just pick a side or pick a way and then change things up.
Okay. What about salad? Is that a good way to try to introduce new things to picky eaters, or is that just a no way?
So I think salad is a really great way to introduce foods. One of the ways I suggested is by serving it sort of like family style. Like who doesn't like to go to a buffet, right? Like I haven't been to a buffet in years, but still, like I think that just having being empowered to like pick what you want and build your own thing, it's so fun. Like that's why, all those salad bars at the buffets and stuff, they're so successful because it plays into the psychology of having the independence to make your own choice and determine what goes in your plate. And we've talked about this in a previous episode, but that's essentially what our kids are fighting us for, to be able to make their own choice, to select what they eat. And by creating things family style, meaning just putting everything out there on the table for them to select and build their own, that feeds right into it.
So cool.
So yeah, salads are a great way. Now, also change up the texture of the lettuce, or the, like, you know, you can cut up romaine really large, or you can shred it, kind of like when you're making tacos. You could also make a salad cup. So like, instead of making a salad, you could try it out as like lettuce cups, or, you know, you just buy, there's so many lettuces out there. Like you may just have to play out, you know, with different things.
Don't start with spinach leaves.
Oh my gosh, never start with spinach. That's like the worst, because honestly, like, let me just tell you, so spinach is the worst. And one of our feeding therapists like mentioned to me, if you've ever have you ever eaten a bowl of, she literally said to me, have you ever eaten a bowl of salad? And after you eat, you have like this funny film in your mouth, like almost like you gotta go brush your teeth. And yes. I was like, yes, totally. She's like, okay, so imagine a child who doesn't like green foods and doesn't like salads or spinach. They're already resistant, and then they actually try it. That doesn't leave a really great first impression.
Right.
And I was like, wow, I didn't think about it like that. Like, I'm looking at it from like the mom perspective. Like, I just want them to have nutritious food. And she's like, yeah, but so that's why spinach blends really well in smoothies. It's a really great vessel. Really, really finely chopped in maybe chilies or pastas or red sauce. When you like stuffed shells with ricotta cheese, you know, my kids complain. Okay, so if you're like, oh, but it's green, I'm like, yeah, my kids complain too. But I tell them that that's seasoning, and, you know, like Italian seasoning. The worst part is that if you don't chop it really fine, they're like, yeah, that's not seasoning. There are leaves. So again, like, you got to pick and do your battles, right? So yeah, spinach is the worst to start with. If butter lettuce is a really great one because it's soft. Romaine, it builds really great long boats. So you could just say, like, we're building a boat tonight. So instead of a salad bowl, they could fill their boat with whatever toppings, right? And then, of course, a variety of dressings. Like, I have a kid who cannot stand ranch dressing. Another one doesn't like blue cheese. My husband doesn't like anything with vinegar. So really, like, condiments are your friend, you know, a variety of them. So, and you know what? My youngest sometimes put ketchup. But, you know,
whatever
I just like...
you gotta do.
Exactly. You put ketchup on a hot dog, so why not his boat, he said. So he has a point. But anyway, so whatever you got to do to make it fun and interactive. And yeah, so those are my two thoughts. You know, oh, and just make it a night out of making salads. Like, don't serve it as a side. I think it's really fun once every couple of weeks to make it like a salad buffet night, you know? So sometimes, like, one of my sons that eats zero lettuce. So his salad is like the turkey and some cheese and, like, you know, all the other things that would go on the salad, and olives, but no lettuce. But it's on the table for everyone else, and he sees that we're all eating it, which is what we touched on this in previous podcast episodes, that the idea is to continually introduce it and offer it and let them make the selection.
So when it comes to people say we should eat the rainbow, how do we encourage our kids, maybe not just focusing on one color, but to get all of those colors in their diets?
Yeah, so there's eating the rainbow is a really great idea, but it comes with us parents finding more foods that fit that one color. So a lot of times they're like, well, my kids just won't eat carrots. There's a lot of orange foods. You can have peaches, you can have sweet potatoes, you can have butternut squash. You know, yes, carrots are in there. There are orange peppers. So, like, the rainbow means a variety of foods. So it really starts with us finding more than one thing that fits that color, right? So eating the rainbow is really important because phytonutrients are found in color, which means, you know, all of the vitamins and all are found in colorful foods, not white foods, really. I mean, some, but most white foods are fortified, but let's not go into that. So eating the rainbow is really important because it offers nutrition, right? But again, and there's a lot of free charts out there to like, foods by color. And then, so maybe you just ask your kids, hey, this week when I'm putting my grocery list together, what red food should I buy this week? And so it's a list, right? So this week you're going to buy whatever it is. And then you cross that out. The following week, you're like, hey, what red food am I going to buy this week? And they're like, and they say, oh, tomatoes. I'm like, no, we bought that last week. Or I already have that on my list, but we need to cross something else off the list, right? So you can really gamify a lot of these things. Bonus points if you find a recipe that, we could use with this, right? Like, kids our ages, like my 7-year-old knows how to maneuver the internet really well. So like, why not just empower them to do some of the work for us? I know we're taking the time to build a shopping list. Like they might as well like help us out with what to do with the food. So it really depends on the effort that you want to make. And again, just cook them differently, right? Like a steamed broccoli, or let's use pepper. So like, raw peppers are really crunchy, but if you can make like shakshuka, which we have a really easy recipe for that, so we should share with them how to make that. There's a video for that, and it's just soft, and it the peppers are cooked down with onions. You could chop them really small, so now they're not like fajita like long and stringy. They're tiny, and then there's a fried egg on top. I mean, who doesn't like that? And then you get to dip crusty bread. It's even better. So again, get creative, make a game, and find variety. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned white foods being kind of a sticking point. So as we close out, if you have a kid who's like, give me all the mashed potatoes, give me all the rice, macaroni and cheese, which is yellow, but it gets a pass, bread, milk, what's the next thing we add to that? We can't just leap to a red pepper, I'm guessing, but how do we slowly transition into more than just white food?
Okay, so the first question to ask ourselves is my child only eating the white foods I'm complaining about, meaning white rice, mac and cheese, even though it's yellow, but whatever, pasta, mashed potatoes, bread, because I'm offering it to my child? Or are they truly not eating anything else? So I often tell parents, what would happen if the grocery store no longer sold that item? Like, imagine a world where you could no longer get mac and cheese or mashed potatoes or bread. Then what else would you do, right? You would just get creative and say, this is what we have today. Like our grandparents, they didn't have any of this stuff. And so they served what they had. And if you didn't eat it, you didn't eat it, right? They were very passive about it. They were like, well, you got to wait till the next meal. So anyway, so the first thought is, are our kids only eating these things because that's what we're offering them? Okay. And number two, those mashed potatoes are no longer white. They could be, you could actually either steam and puree butternut squash in there, or you could just make pureed sweet potatoes or pureed butternut squash. Or so if they really just like the texture of mashed potatoes because it's familiar and whatnot, man, switch up the fruit, the vegetable that you're using, and make a puree of sorts with that. Or say peppers, because you brought up peppers. Now they're red, so why not steam a few peppers or cook some peppers as you're boiling the potatoes to make mashed potatoes? Why not just throw a pepper in there, cut up into pieces, and then put it through the food processor with a few of the potatoes and then mix it into mash, So yes, it will now be pink, but
that's kind of fun.
That's kind of fun. So, and if you're like, oh, my kid will not eat this, well, they're eating pink frosting off a cupcake, they can eat pink mashed potatoes. Or just go, you know what? Or use food coloring to color your potatoes. So another really fun idea is to take those same color foods that our kids eat. So if they're already eating white rice, go take food coloring and show your kid, today we're going to make the rice green. And just drop a drop or two as you're boiling the water. And there is natural food coloring out there. So if you're one of those families that are like, oh, but food coloring is really bad for you, there are many natural food coloring alternatives out there. So that's something I wanted to share, that you're able to change the color of food without introducing vegetables. Also, you can just add food coloring, which our kids are already used to in frosting and candy and all the good stuff. So why not just add it to, and it doesn't change the taste or nutrition. It's just gamifying the color differences. That's it.
That was all we had.
That's all you had? That's all you had for me? All right, guys. So that is today's episode on our color issue and how to help kids overcome challenges with color. So if you like this episode, make sure that you leave a comment. Let us know what can we answer for you in the future. Make sure to check out the show notes because we'll have things linked like recipes, and natural food coloring, so if you want to use that, and previous episodes that we mentioned. That's all for now.